welcome to another episode of Sci-Connect. I am Teacher Roby and I am your science teacher for today. Are you now ready to learn? Let's start!
In this video lesson, we are going to tackle the ecosystem and you are going to differentiate biotic from abiotic components of the ecosystem and how these components live together and build ecological relationships. The most essential learning competencies for this lesson are: differentiate biotic from abiotic components of an ecosystem, describe the different ecological relationship found in an ecosystem. And we have here the learning targets. In this lesson, the learners will be able to define biotic and abiotic components of an ecosystem, classify the components of an ecosystem as biotic and abiotic, differentiate each ecological relationship, and cite examples of mutualism, commensalism, and parasitism. This time, learners, let us assess your prior knowledge about the ecosystem by answering this activity. Directions: choose the letter of the correct answer and write it in your activity notebook. 1. Which of the following is considered as a biotic component of an ecosystem? A. Flood. B. Sunlight. C. Temperature. D. Wildlife. Number 2. Which of the following represents an abiotic component of the environment? A. Grass in the fields. B. Sprouting mungo seeds. C. Sea cow nursing its young. D. Temperature in a mountain. Number 3. Which of the following is not a biotic component in the ecosystem? A. Butterflies. B. Flowers. C. Moss. D. Waterfalls. Number 4. Which of the following relationships exhibits mutualism? A. Rats, cats. B. Algae, fungi. C. Worms, humans. D. Rice birds, hawks. Number 5. Which of the following correctly describes the relationship between an orchid and a tree? A. The orchid is benefited while the tree is harmed. B. The orchid is harmed while the tree is benefited. C. The orchid is benefited while the tree is unaffected. D. The orchid and the tree both benefit from the relationship. Good job, learners! How did you find the test? If you find it difficult, do not worry, for you will learn more as we move on to our activities. Now, I want you to get your ballpen and your activity notebook and do this activity. You are going to classify the components of an ecosystem as biotic and abiotic. Copy the organizer below and write your answers in your activity notebook. So we have here the following components: grasshopper, air, trees, sunlight, oxygen, sand, water, clouds, rocks, and corals. This time, learners, We are going to unlock the difficult words in this lesson with this word bank. We have here the following words which are defined: community, ecosystem, environment, organism, predator, prey. To explore more about the ecosystem, I want you to perform this activity entitled, "What does it mean to be alive?" Objectives of this activity are the following. You should be able to identify the components of the environment, compare living and non-living things, and describe how organisms interact with each other and with their environment. The materials needed for this activity are drawing and writing materials, rocks which surface is grown with small plants, and magnifying lens. Procedure: 1. Visit your garden or your backyard and draw the place. 2. Observe the rocks in your garden or backyard. Find something that looks like the picture on the right. Use a magnifying lens to see the details of the small plants. These small plants make up a population. 3. Answer the guide questions. And we have here the guide questions. 1. What are the things that you see in your garden or backyard? 2. Which of these are living? Which of these are non-living? 3. Observe the things that you identified as living. What do they have in common? 4. Observe the things that you identified as non-living. What do they have in common? 5. What interactions do you observe happening among the living and non-living things? 6. What makes living things different from non-living things? Very good, learners! You have finished the activity about the ecosystem and you were able to differentiate biotic from abiotic components. This time, I want you to get your ballpen and your notebook and take note of these important details. 1. Abiotic factors are the non-living things of an ecosystem. Biotic factors comprise the living things in an ecosystem. 2. Examples of abiotic factors are sunlight, temperature, energy, wind, water, soil, and etc. 3. Examples of biotic components are plants, trees, animals, microorganisms, and etc. 4. Abiotic factors do not adopt any changes, whereas biotic factors can slowly adapt to changes in order to survive. 5. Both abiotic and biotic factors affect the individual of a particular species, their population, community, ecosystem, and the biosphere. 6. Abiotic factors do not depend on biotic factors for their survival, but biotic factors depend on abiotic factors for their survival. 7. There are different ecological relationships: mutualism, parasitism, commensalism, predation, and competition. Mutualism, a relationship wherein both species benefit from each other. Example of mutualism is the relationship between a bee and a flower, wherein the bee get to eat and the flower get to reproduce through pollination with the help of the bee. 9. Commensalism, a relationship in which one organism benefits while the other is neither helped nor harmed. Example of commensalism is the relationship between the shark and remora fish. The remora fish attaches itself to the shark for transportation and eats the leftover foods of the shark. However, the shark is neither benefited nor harmed. Then, parasitism, a relationship in which one organism benefits and the other organism is harmed but not always killed. Example of parasitism is the relationship between a mosquito and a human being. Mosquitoes rely on humans for food. On the other hand, humans are negatively affected, for they will be exposed to diseases brought by mosquitoes. 11. Predation is a relationship in which one organism eats another organism to obtain nutrients. The organism that is eaten is called the prey. Example is a jaguar, which is the predator, eating the deer, which is the prey. 12. Competition is when individuals or populations compete for the same resource and can occur within or between species. Example of this is the competition between a group of elephants and a group of zebras. After discussing to you the important details of this lesson, let us apply what you have learned. Directions: identify the 6 organisms in the picture in the next slide and determine whether it is a vertebrate or an invertebrate. Pair them into 3 and determine their ecological relationships. Write your answers in your activity notebook. And we have here the picture. You can just pause this video for a while so that you can answer this activity. After doing all the activities for this lesson, I want you to reflect on your learnings by completing the following sentence prompts. I have learned that. I wish to ask my teacher about. And now we are down to the last part of this video lesson. We are going to assess what you have learned. Directions: choose the letter of the correct answer and write it in your activity notebook. 1. Which of the following correctly describes the relationship between an orchid and a tree? A. The orchid is benefited while the tree is harmed. B. The orchid is harmed while the tree is benefited. C. The orchid is benefited while the tree is unaffected. D. The orchid and the tree both benefit from the relationship. 2. Which of the following relationships exhibits mutualism? A. Algae, fungi. B. Rats, cats. C. Rice birds, hawks. D. Worms, human. 3. Which of the following represents an abiotic component of the environment? A. Grass in the fields. B. Sprouting mungo seeds. C. Sea cow nursing its young. D. Temperature in a mountain. 4. Which of the following is not a biotic component in the ecosystem? A. Butterflies. B. Flowers. C. Moss. D. Waterfalls. 5. Which of the following is considered as a biotic component of an ecosystem? A. Flood. B. Sunlight. C. Temperature. D. Wildlife. Congratulations, learners, for finishing all the activities about the ecosystem and ecological relationships. Do not forget to keep your activity notebooks because it will be collected and will be checked by your science teacher. Answer diligently.
Congratulations, learners, for finishing this video lesson. I hope you enjoyed learning with me today. Remember, learning is fun with Sci-Connect.